Gisele Dierks, welcome to Enter the Unknown. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation today.
Thank
I'm really excited to talk to you about all things flow state and adventure, road trips, flying and hang gliding. And you've had quite the kind of adventurous path and life. It's really interesting how our paths have crossed, in fact. And, something that I came across with your bio that I was interested in is you studied at Bennington University and you studied restorative and regenerative social and environmental systems. And I'm curious what that means to you. Like, if you could give me just a kind of a definition. I feel a little naive to it. It seems very like broad and beautiful, but I'm sure there's a lot more nuance to it. And not only what it means to you, but like how you kind of like incorporate that into your life, how that learning process has molded you today.
It is super broad and intentionally so. Um, Partly, I think because I went to Bennington trying to go for like a super specific thing. Um, and it is basically just as I started studying, I was realizing how interwoven everything is and connected. And rather than focus on one small thing, I kind of realized it's about the bigger picture. And these were sort of the words that I found that were able to hold space for that bigger picture in a way that felt aligned. Um,
Hmm.
and so basically, it is encompassing like the environmental side of things, which I'm super passionate about. I feel like there's a lot going on with our environment right now that is somewhat troubling. And there's a lot going on with our social, political, economical systems that are also somewhat troubling. There's also a lot on both of those fronts that are super hope-inducing and wonderful and noteworthy and deserve our positive energy too. So,
Hmm. Tell me about the things that you find to be hope inducing that are wonderfully energetic. Like,
well, I guess what really got me started, so I was in these classes learning about climate change and how bad the numbers are looking, basically.
hmm
And I was pretty like, I went into college and I was super peppy and super stoked and super smart, and immediately was like, "Oh shit, it's like way worse than I thought and
hmm.
it's really bad." And I was pretty depressed and pretty much like, I don't really know like what to do or what I'm doing. Like all this pep I felt is now like maybe just like the classic pep that we think of all the youngsters
hmm
feeling. And maybe I just need to maybe we really like, I don't know what to do now. And then I was in another class with the wonderful Jesse McDougall, who runs Studio Hill Farm in Shaftesbury, Vermont, which is a regenerative farm. And he basically brought us into the math of um, regenerative farming
hmm.
and water storage with more biodiverse soil. And it just gave me a lot of hope for how we can go forward. And I was like, okay, this is something I can get behind. Like, it's still not a
hmm
guarantee, but like, the more we kind of
hmm
can just focus on this, the more we can try and repair. And I felt that there was something exponential almost, maybe not exponential, but definitely nonlinear about that approach that felt
hmm
like it worked um, with what we're doing. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
and all the terrible things I've been hearing. And then from there, I was doing a lot of like psychology studies and a lot of sociology um and that was pretty dark as well. But some of my friends were doing restorative, like social justice work. Um, I also was really, as a result of the depression, struggling with my energy levels.
Mm.
Um, and like a lot of like just negative shame talk about not being able to just like push through and get shit done. And um through sort of just like this community of people, it was like a little more gentle. I was able to move forward and stop with the beating and the
Mm.
self-flagellation and
Yeah.
kind of like realize that, there were so many things, so many parts of this, like realizing that no matter how much you try to do yourself, there still are these like larger entities that you can't really necessarily control, but also not completely just being like, well, it's out of my hands. So like I guess I'll just like screw off.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, the classic apathy that we all
yeah.
experience. Just stick your head in the sand and ostrich through whatever the next chaos is. Well, that's great. A shout out to Jesse McDougall at the name of the farm was
Studio Hill.
Studio Hill. Great. It's amazing. The education is there. The tools are there. I only even recently, I would say last few years, learned like what regenerative farming was. I didn't know the nuances of big ag and the small family farms and how differently they operate and how much more important that is for the biodiversity of the soil and as you put it. And I think it's really incredible how that's becoming a lot more mainstream. And, more and more people are not only becoming aware of how farming affects the planet and how carbon sequestration is a big element within climate change. In fact, I read once that the fastest growing environment or like ecosystem on the planet is actually deserts, and that desertification is like rapidly advancing, having a lot to do with monocrop agriculture, depleting the soils and ripping off that microbiota that we really need, that living breathing firmament, and it's just being cooked and dried and blown away, so to speak. And I think interesting, your degree, those just seem like two wildly opposing other ends of the social and the environmental. And it's like your you know day-to-day interactions with humans and people and how those systems can break down so easily, especially with the nuance of social media and all this programming that we're absorbing all the time through the digital world. But then the other end of the spectrum, the environmental, that tangible reality that you actually live in. What a great university Bennington must have been to offer programming like that. I think that's really special. I think that there needs to be a lot more people using tools like that and getting that kind of education to look outside the box a little bit and see, how badly we're being affected by so many things, kind of as you put it. And so now you are the manager of the Morningside Flight Park in New Hampshire, which I think might take up a big chunk of our time because I'm really excited to talk to you about all things flying. And so, Morningside Flight Park, a big paragliding, hang gliding school in Western New Hampshire. Is it in Charlestown proper?
Mhm.
Charleston,
North Charlestown.
North Charlestown with a W. Um, and Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to hear a little bit about your story about growing up there. Like living with the hang gliders. Your father was a pilot and he was kind of the founder. Tell me the whole story. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so my dad, Jeff Nicolay, or originally it was a dairy farm, and some guys were driving by and they were like, as I've heard it, which I haven't ever I've heard so many different variations and everybody's memory is spotty, but which is
Huh.
one of my great loves of the world is like you can try and get the same information, but if you just ask two people that had the same experience, you still won't get the same answer.
Yeah.
Um, so some people drove by. It was like back in the cowboy days. They were like, "Hey, can we fly this hill?" And the farmer was like, "Heck yeah, as long as you teach me."
Yeah.
He had also already been interested in local flying at Ascutney Mountain, apparently. And together they kind of started to develop the transition from dairy farm to hang gliding school. Um, Shortly thereafter, the farmer in his super old technology, not super well functioning hang glider got in an accident and he got hurt, was supposed to never walk again. And they were kind of, and my dad was building hang gliders in Glastonbury, Connecticut for Zephyr Aircraft, which is no longer in service.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
they were like, "Hey, do you know anybody who would want to go up to New Hampshire and help this guy out with this place?" And he was like, "Sure, me, I'll go up there." And he did. And he never left. And the farmer made a full recovery, Phil Haynes, and walked and flew for the rest of his life, basically. Um, he was an excellent pilot. Both of them were good pilots. And he sold Morningside to my dad in 2008, right before he passed. And then my dad passed, unfortunately, just 2 years later in 2010. And then Kitty Hawk Kites out of North Carolina bought it in 2011. And we've been working with them ever since. So,
And so, Morningside Flight Park, it's the biggest in New England. It's the biggest school on the East Coast, maybe? Is it bigger than the paragliding school that Kitty Hawk runs in North Carolina? It might be.
the hang gliding school. Yeah, so they definitely do a lot more volume than we do.
Hmm.
Um, but we are probably doing more of a high level education. So
Yeah.
a lot of beginner pilots in the Outer Banks, and then a
Hmm.
lot of more advanced technique up at one side.
Hmm. 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 What a fun operation
Yeah,
to be a part of. I know I can speak from firsthand experience, having been an instructor there at Morningside for the last 3 years. I'm really looking forward to this summer season and all the new talent that will be coming through, I'm sure. Um, Tell me a little bit more about kind of that like transition from childhood and like when did you start to first did you always want to fly? You know, did you fly tandem as a child? Was it inevitable for you? I mean, you grew up at the flight park. It was just a matter of time, right?
I don't know if it was inevitable. I mean, it probably was pretty inevitable because I'm the kind of person who just kind of in for a penny, in for a pound. Um, there was never any pressure for me to be involved in it. And I think that there was so little pressure that like I wasn't even really aware of like it maybe like I almost wish that I'd had like more like you should go like come on like let's go flying.
Uh,
Um but I totally came to it on my own and I just remember being a kid and sitting on the 150 and watching the paragliders untangle their lines. And I was like, this is for the birds. I do not
ha,
want to do that. And so I always just immediately had a sort of um affection for hang gliding. And when I was 8, there were some people here to do like a segment for like the news, and the reporter was too scared to go hang gliding tandem. And I had just gotten home from my mom's house, just did the like whatever Tuesday afternoon or whatever drop off, weekend drop off. And my dad didn't even say hi to me. He was just like, "You wanna go do you wanna go flying?" And then he was like, "There's somebody here that's too scared to do it." And, this basically goes in the face of what I just said about not having pressure, but
Yeah, of course.
he was like, "Yeah, like, I just figure, like, if you can do it, then maybe that'll show them how safe it is or how, like, whatever it is." And I was like, "Yeah, I do wanna go, like, let's go, absolutely." And, so I went and had an amazing flight. I still remember it. I still have pictures of it. It was perfect sunset flight, smooth butter air, and, yeah, just an amazing time,
So,
and
did you replace the
I
person who
did.
would have
Yeah,
been filmed?
yeah.
Did you end up, like, in a television commercial or something like
I
that?
don't think so. I think they kinda just, like, um I don't know what happened really. I was too young
Mhm.
to really care. It was just kinda like, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go
You
flying.
got your flight, and that's
Yeah.
all that mattered.
But, I definitely kept doing tandems, every once in a while whenever it worked out after that. And, and then a few years later, after the transition of the ownership and everything kinda had fallen apart and come back together in more or less the same way, um, there were some friends who were teaching the young guys from the dunes at the Outer Banks, and they were like, you wanna, like, take some lessons?" And I was working there, and I was like, "Yeah, I do." And little 13-year-old me, I could barely pick up the hang glider. Um, so it took me until I was, like, 16 to get my hang one right before my driver's license. Um,
You got your Hang One license before your driver's
the
license.
same
Very
pool,
cool.
just
That's
weeks
some good
before.
bragging rights.
Yeah, yep. And, yeah, and it's been a very slow process. The joke is, like, if you work there, you never get to fly. But, but there's so much to take in addition to the flying that you
Mm,
sort of are in it, even if you're not actually the one piloting the glider.
mhm. Yeah, that property is incredible. It's 100 plus acres, right? With a ton of just wilderness, forest, and I always appreciate telling the visitors when they come, the tourists, whether they're coming for the zip line or they're coming for paragliding or paintball or camping, about the old growth oak trees that are there. I think it's a red oak and a white oak. You have to correct me if I'm wrong. It's like a 250 and a 450-year-old tree. And, I'm a hippie at heart. I just love trees and those old growth pieces of the forest as they kind of like extend out into, like the public hangout areas. It's a great way for people from the cities to come up and connect with such an amazing piece of land. You know, being such a big school on the East Coast, it has always shocked me that it's not like more well known than it is, I suppose. I had just only vaguely tangentially heard of or knew about the Morningside Flight Park in New Hampshire when I lived out west. I did a lot of paragliding in Colorado and Maui and Utah, and only through kind of like the grapevine knew that, oh, there's a place out there where you can fly. But actually, the amount of people that are coming up from the big cities, from New York and Boston, the busy weekends up there, I'm always kind of shocked, like, oh, this is actually a big operation. There's a lot going on here. You now are managing the operation. And is that something you've expected? Did you ever think that the time will come when, like, I'll be starting to steer the ship a little bit? Like, are you happy in this process?
I'm so happy. I think there was a long period of time in the same way that, like, I wasn't pressured to take up flying, that, um, I wasn't really planning on sticking around. It was kind of like you're gonna go off and, like, you're gonna be in, like, an ivy colored building, and then you're gonna go be a diplomat, and you're gonna do great things in the world that are, like, big and fancy and have a good paycheck, and you're so smart, and What
Yeah.
would you wouldn't wanna hang around all these old hang glider bums, like, all these
Yeah.
old guys that just, like,
Yeah.
can't really
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and at the same time as that was kind of the expectation, ironically, I feel like my little heart has always, like, secretly, even unbeknownst to me for a while, kind of been pointed in the direction of this Morningside dream.
Mm.
And, um, so yeah, like, by the time I was 20, I'd been working there since I was 13, I think. And I was out one day with our neighbor Joel, our good friend, and we were walking through the snow on the backside of the hill in the middle of, like, I think it was possibly my birthday, actually. It might have been my 20th or 21st birthday, maybe, I don't know. Um, and I just remember the sun, like, glittering on the snow and the trees and the moss, and it's a part of Morningside that I rarely had spent much time in, at least in the last,
Mm.
like, 10 years while I'd been working there and kinda growing up.
Mm.
And I just had this, like, lightning bolt of, like, I don't even wanna be here for the people, like, it's not even about the summertime and the buzz and, like, everything, like, I just wanna be here, and, like, all of that is just a bonus, and, like, I do wanna be here, and, like, this is everything I want and everything I've studied and everything I think about put into one place right in front of me, and at least for now, this is kind of like the way that I see that impact of all that I studied at Bennington. This is a
Mm.
place for me to bring all that spectrum together with the people and the
Hmm.
environment and the social and the economic. Entrepreneurship is like that is our vote. That is our way to make a way that is different.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see how it's shifted your perspective, especially in the social context. You know, the flying community, hang gliding and paragliding is very eclectic to say the least. And there are a lot of kind of cowboys out there, and there's some, crusty and crotchety old timers, and then there's some kind of loose cannons, some young people too, and I can see how that that social fabric and that layer of adhesion that you have to have is something that's going to be both at times strict, but also like fluid because you know, now that you're in this role, it's not just like a day to day business operation, it's a whole community, right? And you've kind of evolved into this position where you're this, wrangler almost of this rodeo community kind of thing. And you got to reel people in sometimes. And sometimes maybe they got to get kicked out of the barn once in a while. Those wild horses, they can't always be tamed. I can imagine it's a um, lot just to manage that social aspect as like one small element of this role. Um, I'm sure that you'll be able to pull on your years of education, and I think that the restorative social systems that you studied is something that could go a long ways for you there at the Morningside. And yeah, wow, thinking about the land as well, and being able to put improvements into it. It's a beautiful property, as I was saying, and it's got several hundred feet of elevation gain and the old growth trees and the open fields for flying where everyone launches and lands from. But then there's also a great watershed as well. There's flowing water and a creek and some multi-tiered ponds. And I know one of the ponds had a big blowout a season or two ago, and there was kind of like a dream. And had you told me originally, was there trout there,
Mhm.
or there's an opportunity to like turn it into a fish farm? Was there something like that with the kind of permaculture aspect?
Yeah, we had tried at one point to do a fishing aspect of Morningside, and the pond had been stocked with trout as a as a way to get that going. Um, and definitely there's possibility for that going forward. Um, so yeah, we'll see.
Is it something that you're like intrigued by something you want to work towards, or is it just one more spot on the crazy to-do list of hypothetical ideas?
I think it's all on my list, and definitely I'm passionate about making the ponds biodiverse and healthy,
Mm, mm,
and dealing with the water in the best way.
mhm,
Um, I have sort of like a moral debate with myself right now because originally the fields at the bottom that we land in were wetlands,
mm.
and there are
Stokes Picks are the world's first organically flavored nicotine toothpicks. Produced in the great state of Maine from American white birch wood, which is sustainably harvested and grown in the great state of Maine. They have incredible flavors: vanilla mint, lemon ginger, cinnamon clove, and absinthe. And if you enter the promo code Enter the Unknown, you'll receive 20% off your order at stokespicks.com.
there's a lot of um I feel a lot of complexity around the fact that they basically just got channeled and
Mm,
made into this spot for us, and now we have this beautiful legacy of doing this amazing thing that changes so many people's lives. But I just want to be really careful moving forward with all of the land management plans and like really make sure that it's comprehensive and thinking about the community and the community at large, including the creatures that we don't necessarily talk to, but are definitely in
mhm,
conversation with. And
mhm,
and
mhm.
so that's just like for all my studies, I'm getting into pond management and the actual on the ground basics of regenerative land management. Um, but I have, but I am spending so much time doing the actual business side of hang gliding and paragliding and the
Yeah.
community building that it's hard for me to just absorb all this information all at once in such a short span of time.
Mhm,
So, um, and but also like, yeah, it's exactly, I've had these amazing experiences of growing up with all these different perspectives and all these different crusty people and all these different like not crusty people and
yeah.
love for all of them and seeing the limitations of each of those different mindsets um and so just also kind of like trying to find the right team going forward to help support a really inclusive and well thought out sustainable future for us.
Mm. It must be very rewarding being simultaneously this steward of the land while shepherding the flock of misfit pilots. They're not all
I mean,
misfits,
we kind of are.
but, I think there's, like, a phase for all pilots. It's like,
Yeah,
you're kinda
you
like
come in as
total newbie,
yeah,
have no idea, real beginner, and then there's, like, a misfit phase. And you get through the misfit phase, and then you kinda become like, "Alright, he's been around 5 years, he's not quite as sketchy as he used to be," kinda thing. So, amazing for you to have that, like, rewarding responsibility and, like, you're wearing so many hats with that, but at the same time overwhelming. I'm sure you kinda got thrown into the deep end of this, and, I can understand and empathize with, like, the moral quandary, right, of wanting to really do your best to have the most minimal environmental impact, right? Like, nature pays the toll so often for so many of the activities that we do, and you wouldn't think paragliding, hang gliding would have that much of an impact, but on a big property like that, it's 100 acres, 130, what's the
I
number?
think it's 160 with a lift. Yeah.
160. Yeah, that is a massive property, and the flying area is just a portion of that, essentially. But yeah, the wetlands and the flora and the fauna. I mean, I know I've seen deer up there running through the field in the morning and tons of geese. The flock of geese this spring was really something to behold. Flying around with, you know, wild ducks is pretty cool. That's a pretty cool experience. Yeah. Something I like to kind of ask everybody on the show is what's really lighting your fire right now? Where are you getting your stoke from? What's driving your passion?
I think it honestly is just kind of like the small successes of like the people. Really right now it's been the people, it's been meeting friends, really just true friendships, love um and so much support from all the community. Um it's I mean also you kind of have to give hang gliding and paragliding credit for themselves. Like just go up in your glider for a minute and
Yeah.
goof around a little bit, and then you're kind of like, "Oh, well, geez, I feel like that was this is all not so bad right now."
Yep.
Um or just going out for a walk and seeing. I'm a big moss guy. I love the moss. Um Sunshine and moss is like pretty easy concoction to get me smiling again. Um
Oh, amazing.
So, yeah, I don't know, whatever. It's just there's so much challenge to it, and I have really been struggling, um, to stay in the stoke and to stay in the forward momentum, and I just do need to take breaks a lot of the time, and I do need to
Mm,
just slow down, and my rest is so important to me. I'm, like,
mm,
like, decently strict about my sleep schedule. And just like making sure that that like my social rest, all the different types of rest are prioritized.
mhm.
Um, and yeah, and that's kind of just like that's how you do it. You just gotta keep.
That's great that you're so stoked and enthusiastic about this new kind of position and responsibility and undertaking, but at the same time, you've found that balance where something as simple as sunshine and touching moss, walking in grass can also give you stoke. I kind of strive for a balance like that, and in my own life, sometimes I'm, you know, maybe a bit addicted to endorphins, not necessarily like an adrenaline junkie. That's like the classic thing that people say about like paragliders and hang gliders and all the extreme sports, or some certainly if you're doing massive dirt bike jumps. And I think that base jumping is probably pretty similar to that, where it's like very short and very fast and you're kind of pumped up the whole time. But paragliding, hang gliding, like you need to be relaxed, you need to be focused, right? And, you know, flow state's a beautiful thing that I always like to try and engage in myself, as often as I can, and I find it fleeting, that it's, like, more and more difficult for me to, like, really become present in and engrossed in a way that I am laser focused in on what it is that I'm doing. And you had written something about a practice of patience and flow state, and tell me about your engagement and attachment to flow state.
Yeah, I think so part of my Bennington time also was in the visual arts department. I was sort of so focused on saving the world and like, oh my God, we're all gonna die. And I had been taking photos at the same time, and one of my professors, part of Bennington, you don't actually, they don't have majors, they don't have grades unless you request them. You get narrative evaluations, and then you write basically a thesis about what you're studying, and you go before a board of professors, and they either deny or accept your proposal. And
Hmm.
the only critique they had of my plan was that I didn't believe in myself enough to do my photography.
Hmm.
Um, and I was sort of like, yeah, but like you can't make money off of photography. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like special or good enough to do that. And through that whole anxiety of imposter syndrome of whether or not I'm an artist or good enough to compete with the Bennington artists, um, I met Sal Randolph out of New York City, who was doing Slow Studio, this class that was just about the capitalism and slowing down, um and in that we sort of came around to flow, and I started noticing how much flow had in common with hang gliding and paragliding. and how much it had in common with my own, like, anxiety levels, and then my, like, not anxiety levels and my successes when I would just relax and kind of, like, let things happen and work themselves out. And, um, I guess I've just sort of, like, read enough people that I respect that I started to trust that, well, maybe there is something to this, like, totally hokey woo woo
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
that these people are talking about.
Yep.
Um, and I'm very much like, I've I'm not I think a lot of people think that I am like this total hippie that just like I do present now as this person that's just kind of pie in the sky and like super optimistic, and but it's like what you really don't know is I actually went through a lot of time where I wasn't in the luxury um of that way of being, and I really was working my ass off, and it was really hard, and I was just really like not guaranteed. And granted, like now maybe I look back and it's like, well, all along you did have things, it's like supports and things that you
Mhm.
just couldn't, you didn't have, there was nobody telling you that things were going to be okay and that you could relax and that it really wasn't that bad. But like but anyway, so like now I've figured it all out, or not really, but like I'm going with this working theory, and so I'm just practicing it, and I try to stay in the practice, and I notice very quickly when I'm falling into this anxiety state, that things usually are not working out for me, um and if I just can notice when I get into that state and kind of like take the pressure off, the sooner I kind of take the pressure off and just let it come back around to whatever feels like the most fun thing you're doing. There's this other research about like you learn things 40 times faster through play state. I don't know if you
Hmm.
heard about that. And I can't remember at this point who's, might have been Carol Dweck, but that's like a total question mark. Maybe I'm just making
Okay.
that up.
All right.
But
What was the Carol, what was the last name?
Dweck. I I
I'll
might,
put that in the show notes.
yeah, I might be wrong. I would probably check that before I go into that. But anyways, um I just try to recognize that I'm a lot more productive when I'm in a positive, when I feel rested and good,
Mm.
and that's kind of, I think there's a lot of overlap between that and flow state. We've got,
Mhm.
Bruce Lee's Be
Mhm.
Water. That's a big,
Mhm.
kind of tenet of my being. I grew up so
Mhm.
right down the street from Morningside. My mom grew up in a mill house that my grandfather turned into a house after World War II when he came over. And, growing up over the river and then the water system at Morningside, which I think at one point there was like hydroelectric thoughts on that process.
Hmm.
My grandfather
Mhm.
down the
Mhm.
road also wanted to do hydroelectric. So pretty crazy. My dad and my mom just happened to be living down the street from each other, and both had these sort of like parallels of hydroelectric. And so, yeah, I just kinda put all that into myself. I'm like, all these
Mhm.
things have brought me here to where we are right now, and, I'm just gonna flow with it, and
Oh, that's
until
great.
I find something, as if another opportunity comes knocking, I'm always traveling and always
Mhm.
keeping myself open, but I'm
Mhm.
always sort of rooted in Morningside, um, and even being away from Morningside, I miss it a lot.
Mhm. Mhm. That's so great to be permeable and adaptable and fluid, right? Like what could flow better than water? You referenced that Bruce Lee quote, and I'm like trying to pull it out of the memory banks. And I've heard the video, it was a clip, and he says something like, you know, you pour water into a cup and water becomes the cup. Be like water. And I just love that. And it's like, okay, I am everything. Everything is me. And that ability to flow and adapt is so important.
Well, and my other favorite part of that is, like, water like, if you think about rivers and the stone of rivers and how they get shaped, like, stone is so hard and impermeable and, like, strong and, like, I would love to be as strong as stone, and I feel like I spent the first, like, 10, 15, 20 years of my life trying to be like this, like, "Ah, I'm strong," and, like, "I'm just gonna muscle through it," and, like,
Yeah.
I will get there, and then I was just like,
Hmm.
"Damn, like, I'm not getting there, like, this is not working. I'm a
Yeah.
wreck." And so I just kinda, like, was like, "Well, let's just see if this other way works and if eventually we can, like, kinda wear down the sediment." So,
Yeah. There's something to be said for white knuckling through life,
totally.
certain experiences and lifestyle choices and things that like, yeah, you got to work hard. You got to push through. You got to, grit your teeth and bear it. But then other times, and I've learned this lesson a lot, it's like counterintuitive actually. You're like working against the goal. It doesn't serve you to force it in that way. It's like the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, right?
Yeah.
So when you fly a lot, do you find yourself in flow state? And like, I'm curious how that kind of relates to like your adventure path, your adventure lifestyle, road trips that you've done. Tell me about some of these kind of like cross country road trips to fly, and yeah, how that's kind of like connecting to your life. Because I know you kind of do a seasonal thing, right? You kind of like winters off, right?
Yeah, I think I'm figuring out my, I mean, I'm trying to figure out my way forward. Um My flying has been actually, like, a really interesting situation. I think growing up at Morningside with so many people who were so excited to see me flying, their excitement manifested in a way that, like, made me feel a lot of pressure, and at this point, this was after my dad had passed, um, and there was just so much stoke for me flying, but it felt like something that I had to get right. And obviously, you do have to get it right to some extent because you're trying not to get hurt.
Yeah.
Um, but there's so much finesse to it as well, and so much performance. Um, and as in this sort of like leadership role that I'm at now, I feel like I was in the leadership role before I ever really got to develop myself as a pilot. And so I do struggle with like other people's opinions, and it's been really wonderful to just go away from the people who were immediately involved in my growing up and to kind of like get outside of that and just show up to places with some anonymity and um and to be able to fly with my friends who know me as a person like outside of work kind of, and
Hmm.
just kind of like know that they have my backs and to just kind of that, like, totally changes my energy, um, and a lot of times it's just, like, in the summer, I'm working, so I can't really go fly. In the winter, I get to go and see my friends and engage in the fun of it more. So
Hmm.
and kind of enjoy that dream. Also, there's like this the whole culture of like the gypsy lifestyle. We call them the flying gypsies. Is that crew of the hang glider pilots mostly? Although there's plenty of paraglider pilots that are also gypsies. But um, just getting to kind of be a part of that culture in in this life where I'm often rooted and have to be professional, and then to be able to disengage a little bit and go off into flying gypsy land and just kind of be just like it's certainly not the same as it was back in the day, but it's an homage or an attempt to channel and build more of the infrastructure or freedom, take back some of the freedom that we've lost in the last 50 years towards
Mm,
that sort of like hippie, like these guys are just
yeah.
flying off random hills and it's
Hmm.
okay if you get hurt because we're not a liability focused, litigious culture.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
And so I know you recently went out to Point of the Mountain in Utah
I'm
and Draper
I'm here
and did
right
some
now.
flying.
Yep.
And I know that you started paragliding a little bit and you're starting to become bilingual. Tell me a little bit about your paragliding experience, your first time under the wing, and some of your instructors and how that evolved and where you're at with it now.
Well, I would say I would roll it back from that immediately and say
Okay.
that I'm still just in the very, very fledgling, not even fledgling stages. I still haven't even flown on my own, and I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. Um, it was, and I probably did my first tandem paragliding flight another 10 years ago, and I've done quite a good number of them at Morningside, um, over the years. I think we did one awesome one together,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
We did a
we
couple.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, and they have been really wonderful. It's wonderful. Like, I think I remember the first time, actually, my first time as sort of an adult, um, was maybe before I had there was something different about it, my perspective of Morningside and flying over Morningside tandem paragliding, where I wasn't in control or in charge, and I could just take in the view of the trees from above in a way that I
Hmm.
hadn't been able to do yet, and I just remember being like and there's a very different perspective from paragliding versus hang gliding that I was just kinda like,
Yeah.
"Oh, my lawn chair, this is, like, really."
Yeah. Just the physicality going from
Yeah.
Superman position to lazy boy.
And so, yeah, now I'm out here. One of my big next ventures with Morningside is to really connect with the larger network of schools. And I think that we as a country or as a community used to be a lot more in touch and used to be a lot more together. That was something I saw my dad really a part of. And I am just trying to like get back in touch, like Superfly is out here and, Dale Covington's Big Sky Paragliding and Cloud9 is out here um, and so I'm just trying I haven't even been able to do a fraction of the kind of, like, hanging out and just becoming friends with people that I wanna see and get wisdom from and share wisdom with, um but that's been really amazing, and I did get to do a few tandems, um, and do a little bit of kiting, and they
Hmm.
definitely, um, changed my perspective for the positive. Not that I was not into paragliding before, but I'm definitely
Yeah.
a lot more excited about it now, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Well, I'm biased, of
yeah,
course, having never flown a hang glider and only been a paraglider pilot. I think I speak for maybe the entire paragliding community when we're like, "Come on over,
yeah,
Gigi. We're
yeah,
waiting for you. You can still hang glide. We're not going to tell you don't hang
yeah,
glide, but we want to get you up there with our soft fabric
yeah,
canopies too."
yeah.
And so you've driven across country a few times, and you did it once with your cat and your hang glider
Twice. Well,
twice.
this year
Tell me about those adventures.
this year I did it with my cat, my dog, and 4 hang gliders and 6 paragliders.
What?
I
That's a crazy amount of
It
gear.
was a crazy amount of gear. I was blessed from, David Nickerson of You Can Fly PPG this summer was selling his truck, and I bought his truck, and he gave me a screaming deal on it, and, I we needed to get our paragliders inspected this year, and I figured I'm going out to the point anyway, and we bought them from from BGD, from Dale at BGD. Um, and I would love to just kind of like save on shipping and like just bring them out here, whatever.
Yeah.
And
Heck yeah.
he kindly offered me to learn a little bit more about the inspections as well. Um, so I did that, and Rico and Agate, my cat and dog, came out with me, and then I also was delivering a hang glider to Tiki Mashi, who runs Cowboy Up Hang Gliding in Wharton, Texas, and I got to have lunch with her. Unfortunately, it was right before the storm was coming through that hit Texas, the snowstorm
Oh
in
yeah.
Texas, and so
This
she's like,
winter.
"Ah, we're shut
Yeah.
down, like, you can't come, it's gonna be terrible,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "I'm from New Hampshire, it can't be that."
Yeah.
But
So what is this? 4 inches of
yeah,
snow?
but
Oh.
I know that nobody else in Texas is prepared to deal with it, so I didn't really wanna get stuck in all that, so I
Yeah.
beat feet and got up north more and just came up here, but it was amazing to talk with her and to hear some of her history and her insights, um, and I did a stop at Lookout Mountain in Georgia. It's like I really love the management over there and good friends of mine over there, um so, yeah, it's been an amazing
Are you
trip.
are you still on the road trip right
I'm
now?
here at my friend's Airbnb paraglider paradise, right at the bottom of the
Awesome.
north side of the mountain.
All right. Heck yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's been amazing. I did a quick little jaunt up to Idaho to do some skiing and Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Um, and yeah, we're all just kind of it's just been like the Wyoming trip was to see our previous hang gliding instructor who I haven't seen in 9 years, who I almost dropped out of high school to follow out here back in the day. Um, and I just deeply, deeply love her and our other friend Noah and and then it's just kind of been like one person to another. I'm just kind of following the flow to see where I go next. I'm possibly going to Mexico next. I'm trying to figure out the details of transporting my pets or getting somebody to take care of them for a minute while I jump down there and say hi to one of our pilots. And also, I would love to maybe jump over and see Via de Bravo. My good friend Toby just started working as the engineer for Wells Wing hang gliding.
Oh
So
wow.
so he moved to Mexico to be part of that. And so I'm super
Wow.
excited for
Shout
him.
out to Toby at Will's
He
Wings.
also was first in his class at El Pinon last week. So like he's just like
All
absolutely
right.
flying and I'm just
Heck
so
yeah.
tickled
Heck
for
yeah.
him. So
Oh,
yeah,
what a rad adventure.
it's just
Cat, dog, 4 hang gliders, 6 paragliders, road tripping all over the West, flying all the places, going to Mexico. Man, it's going to be just too good coming back to Morningside after that.
well, I'm really excited for the season ahead. I'm just putting together notes for our opening season staff meeting and trying to figure out what our staffing is going to look like and trying to figure out like how it's all going to look, but I know that this is how it goes every year and we always make it work and we always get through it and it's always awesome. So,
Yeah.
we'll do it.
Are there any, new and exciting developments for the school, for, upcoming students? Any information you want to get out there to the world just about what the summer is going to look like? Any improvements over years past?
I don't know necessarily, just that we're all ready to have a great season and I think we're going to probably be getting some new wings for our school. Um,
Oh, heck yeah.
and
That's exciting. New equipment.
I think we're just trying to update some things here and there and um
What kind of brands and equipment potentially?
I'm all brands. I'm so happy to try and offer whatever anybody would like to get. Um I think we and AirQuest or Paraglide New England are sort of the only things happening in the Northeast right now. And so anything that like we can do to help people feel happy about their gear and their colors and getting in the air safely and is like I'm on board with it. And so I'm trying to get a range of different wings so that people can kind of try things while they're
Mm. Mhm.
learning and figure out what they might prefer to order.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and everybody's
Yeah,
been
it'd be
super
great to work.
welcoming towards that, and I think we have enough of a clientele to support that. So,
Yeah. Oh, I agree. It'd be great to work with some of the brands potentially and look at the ability to like demo wings essentially. We've got the whole student quiver
yeah.
of wings that just get used all season by the same people over and over again, but the ability for students who want to buy gear
Yeah,
to be able to demo some stuff would be
we
amazing. Have a separate set that doesn't get touched.
yeah. We already kind of are trying to make that available. I have some people that had that happen last year, and I just kinda if you have an interest in something, it's like, let me know, and I'll see if I can just get somebody to send us one, and maybe while you're
Mhm.
trying it, somebody else would like to try it, and
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
it's our gear we've had so much going on the last few years that our gear sales has just not really been, like, a
Mhm.
big priority for us, but I
Yeah.
think it's something worth giving some time and energy going forward, so I'm just
Mhm.
now getting in the basics of it,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, and everybody has just been so welcoming and friendly and helpful, so I think it won't be a problem. It's just gonna take me some time to kinda, like, wrap my head around it all and, like,
Yeah.
reading all the different and I'm not traditionally a paraglider pilot, and I think a lot of the gear market right now is in paragliding sales.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
that's just gonna take me a minute to kind of, like, get myself acquainted with all the different every brand has 4 different versions or however many different versions, and how do they
Yeah.
compare, and how do they all
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Lots of different models
and
and
they're all
mhm.
coming from different countries, and what are the shipping and tariffs and
Yeah, yeah.
take for
Of
so,
course.
but
Yeah, tariffs threw it for a loop this year. I know I ordered some gear for some guys, some kites and some wings, and it was, "Here's the price," but then, "Oh, there's an extra $400 on there," kinda thing. It's kinda rough day and age to be ordering equipment made from afar.
yeah.
But that's all exciting. I think it's going to be great news for all the students and people coming to fly at Morningside this year. I know myself coming in as, kind of a little veteran, 4 seasons now at the old
Woo!
Morningside Flight Park. I'm pretty excited to teach and myself to learn too. I'm always learning. It's so great with that social fabric, right? And like helping you and assisting support your team and your cohesion of the network there. I love learning about people in that way. And there's something beautiful about teaching when you don't understand right away, but sometimes you kind of build a sense for what style learner someone is, right? Whether they're, kinesthetic or auditory or a visual learner or a fusion of the three, and the people who immediately take on to the hands on, or the people that need the thing like really explained in an articulate way. And getting to know people in that way, like, immediately puts you on a deeper level of connection to them, whether or not you're instantly friends, you instantly understand someone at a level that you never would otherwise. And something like learning how to fly, which is almost ingrained into our DNA. It's this intrinsic thing ever since we're a child. You all want to fly like a bird, right? But there's a lot of fear involved with that too. That anxiety of like entering into the unknown, doing something you've never done, stepping beyond the familiar. And some people are very comfortable with that and will easily go headlong into it and, tumble themselves down the hill and cartwheel a couple times until they get it right kind of thing. And other people have a lot more trepidation, are a lot more just cautious about their way into it. And I love building that like network of friends and community and understanding and being able to watch them progress too. It's one of my favorite parts about being an instructor actually is seeing them evolve and seeing that like natural joy, right? As they have one of their first big flights or they have a really great landing or they have a really great launch or even just kind of the voyeuristic aspect of watching other people fly is so great for students as they come in too. It's um, pretty bewildering, I think, for people who have no familiarity with it. And I've seen it, dozens of times, and people come to Morningside Flight Park and they're just, wow, like, whoa, this is, whoa, he just flew and landed over there. And like, what? They just have this, little paraglider that fits in a backpack, or they strap the hang glider to the top of the truck and then you just run off the mountain. Like, that's all this is. And it's a beautiful thing, honestly, to witness and to be a part of. I think it's a really exceptional thing that you are able to kind of like manifest and behold and steward and shepherd and all those pieces. I'm excited and happy for you. It's going to be a big couple of years. I think this is great, like foundational place. This is the blast off for you, right? This is the rocket ship moment to like the 3, 2, 1. There she goes. It's going to be a wild ride. And I'm excited to be on board, or at least like I'm there. Maybe I'm a spectator. Am I on board?
We'll
Maybe I'm
find
on
out.
board. We'll see. Yeah, we'll find out for sure. Um, yeah, there's a couple things that I like to ask. I wonder about too. We kind of talked about fuel and focus and flow and adventure and entering the unknown. And I wonder, like, beyond the obvious of like what's going to happen with you at Morningside Flight Park, is there like a greater unknown for you? Whether it's something you've had in your past that was like totally unheard of and unexpected, or something that you are perhaps looking forward to in the future for an unknown chapter?
Yeah. Um, well, I think it's the same. It's so funny because in some ways it's the same thing. Um, but I would go back, and so there sort of like aren't any unknowns. Like it's all unknown and it's all known at the same time. But
Like water.
like water, yeah. Um, but there is this other part of me that is making photos and writing a lot. I write every day. Um, I've really put my photos on the side for the moment because I
Hmm.
have felt like I needed some time to really think about like why I'm making them and what sets me apart or what sets the photos apart from the just complete saturation of images and media that we are living with right now.
Mm,
And
mm,
if I can just do something with AI, um, that would have taken me to so many hours to do, um, with my brain and my skills and my hands. It's sort of like it makes me a little depressed sometimes because it's like I don't know if that's like I actually love to do the work, and I love to it's not really work. It is work in the sense that you're exerting energy to make it happen, but it's a pleasure and it's life and it's what I feel like my body was created to do. Um So there is a whole part of me that is making art about this sort of conundrum that we're in right now, and I'm just sort of sitting back for a moment and watching how things unfold, and also trying to not contribute more to the sort of noise and the intensity of this moment that we're living through right now,
mhm,
unless I feel really strongly that it's something that deserves to be added and will maybe make an impact um, in somebody's life or somebody's lived experience. Um,
mhm, mhm,
and so, yeah, that's sort of where I see my future going is just like I'd love to create a little bit more of a balance where I have a little bit more time to spend with just my own like body, like stretching and movement and dancing and photos and writing and sort of like this more intellectual academic space that I was used to inhabiting at Bennington versus the more like physical, hands-on, like we got to get shit done at Morningside.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I love both ways of being, so it's all good no matter what. But it's just I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to creating more of a balance, and I'm not sure what that will look like or how I'm gonna
Hmm.
get there yet exactly, or who's gonna be
Hmm.
involved. Um,
Hmm.
and
Oh, I love that.
yeah,
I couldn't agree more, honestly, with the advancement of AI and what a versatile technology it is. It's an incredible tool, but there's a lot of like fear around it, which I think is valid. But it's unfortunate how deeply and quickly people fall into the patterns of fear, and whether it's through too much social media engineering and too much of the video and too many short form videos that are shrinking our brains, or using AI as a tool, it kind of handicaps us in the same way, right? Because then you start to lose a lot of your critical thinking and creative ability, honestly. And writing is such a beautiful aspect of our lives, of anyone who could write a little bit, because you can't white knuckle writing, right? You can try, but that's certainly not going to be effective. It's like only when you're in that creative flow state can you have those natural thoughts and expressions come out like into the page and through your words and through your vocabulary and through your art. I think that's an incredible aspect of like entering the unknown all the time. It could be a great longer philosophical discussion or debate, perhaps, in fact, about like, where do thoughts come from, and like, is that truly flow state? Because if you wrote a thing, where did you get the idea, and where did the idea come from? And was it actually your own, or was it some kind of subconscious thing that was ingrained into the psyche? Or perhaps, we're actually in the matrix and it's all AI already, and all those thoughts have already happened. That's a great unknown too.
mhm.
Well, before we dive too deep into some philosophical woo nonsense, I'm gonna definitely link your Substack in the show notes. And we gave a shout out to a few different characters out there and a few different businesses in the paragliding world and the regenerative farming world as well. I think you're doing great things, Gigi. I'm really excited to be working with you and look forward to talking with you again soon.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Until then,
Bye.
aloha.